I've toyed with starting out with a British accent myself or something of that kind and just speak normally, casually. But why should you have all the fun? You know?
Exactly.
It's like if I say, hey, we have here, I'll do the intro with a little bit of a, and
It's going to be a different English accent, I can already tell, right? It's going to
yeah,
be more of an East End accent, London accent.
it's going to be a little different. And it's influenced by the attitude. It has nothing to do with geography or anything else. You know, this is a little bit of a long bio that you have here. Where's the shortest bio that you have?
Oh,
Like, what would be? No,
I
I'll find it.
I don't know. That's what I thought I was supposed to write. I would just say, listen, I spent 30 years in sales and building out global sales organizations, and now help small and mid-sized businesses do the same when they're struggling, when they're looking to grow.
Martians landed.
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits.
Yes.
Drinking Henry's seltzer.
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and?
Your branding here.
Yes, brand.
Your message here.
Yes, and?
A verse about
Yes.
your product here.
Yes.
I'm Hersh Rephun.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world
Yes.
or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast. Yes.
And the hot seat today on Yes Brand is a reformed doll thief and pyromaniac who has also made quite a career for himself in the B2B world. Please welcome Simon Stillwell.
There you go. See, I'm a nightmare guest already.
It doesn't
I haven't really
matter.
got started.
No, it really doesn't matter. You know what? Today, I've made an exception. We're going to have, in this very special, I keep saying it's a special season of Yes Brand. And I have a guest on today who's a bit hard to understand. He speaks in a foreign tongue. He has a deep career in sales growth, in B2B marketing, and working with companies to overcome their smallness and experience their bigness. And I hope he can explain better than I, because perhaps you will understand when he speaks. For me, it's a challenge. But anyway, welcome Simon Stillwell to the Yes Brand podcast. Welcome, Simon.
Hersh, you're very kind. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. And I will try and speak slowly for you, Hersh. I'm sure the listeners to this program will understand my accent perfectly. But I'll try very hard to make sure you can follow along.
Thank you. And if I don't put an end to the British accent now, then I'm going to be doing it the whole time, which would be perfectly comfortable for me, but it might throw the audience off.
Yes, exactly. No, and I won't attempt an American accent, that's for sure.
Well, I don't even know what mine is, because I grew up in Miami and lived in New York for a decade, and then California for 2 decades, and now the Midwest for a decade. So I don't know what. Yeah. I don't know what my. I think the way it is, and I think what I've settled on is the kind of dialect that in which I can curse politely. Because
I see, that's where we differ. Although you might consider my cursing polite, but I can assure you it isn't.
How can you assure me that it isn't?
Oh, for fuck's sake, come on.
That's why we have an explicit rating here, because we get a bunch of sods come on and start throwing around the fuck word. I say, I have realized that. So, that's what I mean by polite, Simon. I call it the fuck word so as not to offend.
Yes, exactly.
Then they can say, who said he means the F word. So
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but given it has an explicit rating and you just told me, but my favorite expression is, the wonderful thing about the word fuck is it can be used as almost every word in a sentence, as in, fuck the fucking fuckers.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know who said that. But anyway, listen, I apologize already for having ruined your podcast.
Well, ruin is a big word. I would say, apology accepted. But no, look, obviously we have a wonderful rapport. We've spoken a couple of times. You participated already in one of the group Zooms where you got to meet some of the other guests that are on this season. And that's an unusual thing in itself. One of the things I'm very excited about this season, because here we have people who are entrepreneurial service providers very heart-led, it would seem, people that see the world as bigger than just them, which would seem to be a very basic premise scientifically, but it's not something that a lot of people understand, that the world exists beyond themselves. But clearly my guests do. What were your impressions from meeting a few of your fellow guests, subjects of the interviews?
Well, aside from the fact that I'm probably the most crude, as we've just identified,
Well, I'm the most crude.
I thought they were really impressive. Actually, I honestly, I felt okay. So why on earth are you talking to me when you're talking to these people? How come I got included? So I feel very privileged. I mean, you've got some really phenomenal guests, I think, this season. Not that you haven't had previously, but they're the ones or some of them that I met, and I really thought some of the stuff they're doing is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thrilled. I think that one of the reasons I like when you mentioned before the recording, you said, I've listened to your shows and you have a very eclectic guests.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it, and I'm sharing with the audience that one reason was because during the pandemic, I felt very isolated, like many of us. I also had to change my business model. I didn't have to. I mean, my business partner and I could have kept the same model of working with footwear brands as a niche boutique creative marketing agency. We could have resumed that. But I think what we both felt was that it was not the challenge that it had been when we started doing it, and it was not becoming more exciting or interesting. And the people that we knew were all the same people. And you would see these same people a few times a year. And that was fun, but not growth oriented, either business wise or personally. And so the podcasting thing for me allows a lot of growth and a lot of diversity in the people I meet. And with the two different podcasts, I think, it also allows me with Yes Brand to have different points of view on business. So it's not just that these people are in different businesses. We have people in nonprofits, in the private sector, in the public sector. We have people in the sciences and the arts. All of this is complemented by the fact that they each have a different view of business. They each have their own view of business. Tell us a little bit about your first experiences in business and what you learned.
Okay, well, my very first experience in business was age 7, when I spotted an opportunity at my school where the girls really, I felt, needed more dolls. And my sister, who's younger than me, had a lot of dolls. So I basically pre-sold a bunch of the girls' dolls from my sister's collection of dolls, and I got the money. I told them I needed the money. It was 50 pence a doll, which I thought was reasonable. I told them, go get the money in advance and I'll bring you a doll. So that was my first business venture. It went horribly wrong because the headmistress basically was asked by a bunch of the girls at the school, why is my daughter bringing in money to pay for a doll from this bloke, Simon Stillwell? And so they called my parents, and my parents said, well, where are you going to get the dolls from? I was going to nick them from my sister. Okay, well, none of this is going to work. So
there were all kinds of bad things.
Yes, I may have learned from stealing is not a good thing. Taking the money in advance is useful if you can do it. But that, joking aside, my first serious business was actually selling boats, believe it or not. I'm a passionate sailor, but these
Your sister had boats too?
No, she did not. She did not. That was much later, post-university.
Oh, okay.
But that was the first real business I got involved in. I did that for a while, loved it. But then I traveled around the world for 18 months, and then I came back to the UK and had to sort of get a serious job, and ended up working in London at a fintech business, which I ultimately became a director of. And so I then headed up the sales organization, and we sold that company in 97 to Standard & Poor's. So that was my first real experience of business. My whole career has been in sales, really. I've built sales teams, coached, mentored sales teams globally for multiple companies, from startup through publicly traded businesses. But I think what makes me perhaps slightly different to a lot of people is A, obviously my age and experience, but B, the fact that I've sat on the boards, executive boards of a lot of companies as I've grown,
Yeah.
grown up. And that gives me a lot of experience in all kinds of things. Being acquired, our companies have been acquired. We've acquired other companies, We built teams internationally. We've had to shut teams down. All those kinds of things. We've transitioned through various different stages of software, from installed software to hosted software to software as a service. All that kind of stuff, along with that, running a business and sitting on the board with your colleagues and making those decisions, I guess, is probably where I've had the most enjoyment, and I guess what possibly makes me slightly different from a lot of people.
Yeah. And your humility, which I think sometimes people have an excess of humility that is unfounded. People can have the opposite. They
Yes.
can over an overinflated ego. You have a kind of humility about yourself, which is great. I'm a proponent of humility as well. But I also think that listening to those accomplishments, those are considerable accomplishments. And that's important to communicate, because when people are looking for help and you're someone who can help them, they have to know that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's a, you know what I mean, Simon?
I
Because
do
there's
know
like a
exactly
difference
what you mean.
between being self deprecating or
Yeah.
humble and
Yeah.
then actually missing the opportunity to help someone because they don't know that you can do it. And I have been guilty of that myself, because I used to put a lot of emphasis on being an entertainer, on the stand-up comedy and the writing and screenwriting and all that. I thought that was really what I had to contribute. And then the other stuff that I did as a business, brand, creative, whatever, was kind of ancillary. And therefore I would not tout it. But it was to the detriment of myself and the people that I could help to not own that space, not say
Yeah.
that that was my space. I'm curious, where do you suspect that little bit of, call it shyness, I guess, about your business acumen or stature, you know, where does that come from?
I sort of think it's an English disease. Okay, and I think I probably have it in spades, but I listen to all that. You're very kind. I know deep down I've had a lot of experience. I now help small and mid-sized businesses with their sales strategy and with problems they have with growth and so on. So I've learned that I can actually really help companies grow their revenue and all the rest of it. But I have really struggled with this business of, you call it humility, modesty, whatever you want to call it, right? The worst thing an Englishman can do is tell other people how great they are, right? That's
Yeah.
considered uncouth, if that makes sense. And I struggle with that because, I mean, listen, I, like everyone, I have insecurities and suffer from imposter syndrome. And I definitely think that in the early part of my career, being an entrepreneur and setting up my own business and working with my own business, that was an impediment, right? Because the last thing I really wanted to do was tell people, I'd sell you all day. I'd
Mm-hmm.
sell a product all day. But selling myself, the idea of actually telling people I can solve your problem and this is why, because I'm really good at it, is very uncomfortable. It's still uncomfortable to me. And of course, this is in America. This is the land of people, selling everything, right? What I have
Yeah.
also discovered is that quite a lot of the people, especially in my space, that I've seen in the past, and even people I've hired who sounded really impressive, interviewed really well, had phenomenal and frankly resumes that looked better than mine and really sort of, were quite intimidating, turned out to be absolute shite. And I
Yeah.
suddenly realized, hang on a minute, these people I thought were going to be phenomenal are actually rubbish. I'm way better than that. So weirdly, you have picked on something that I actually have lived without even knowing. And I do struggle with that a little bit. And self-promotion is still not something I'm comfortable with. I have to promote myself, but I'd rather do it by demonstrating my ability rather than telling people I'm
Well, and
something.
that's totally understandable. I think that culturally, just as I enjoy doing British accents, I relate more to that than I do to the kind of bombastic showman like kind of approach to promotion. And what I resonate with is more of an informative point of view. So, in other words, you provide a certain service, talking about the benefits of the service and the benefits to them and the needs that they have, and so on and so forth. And then working up to the fact that you've been able to do this or do that. I think it's just about, I think what I learned was, because I also was self deprecating to the point where it wasn't, I was really bad at one point. It was not attractive. It's like, you know, that whole thing about you can't take, like, my sister, who's probably not listening, although she might randomly listen, I'll get a phone call, but I won't say which sister. One of my sisters would be very sensitive to criticism, let's say. So my mother would say, "Oh, you have to be able to take criticism." With me, it was you have to be able to take compliments. You can't
Right.
just say, because you're insulting the person who's paying you a compliment,
Yes.
and they're not doing it with a sense of you being some kind of asshole. They're doing it because they like you and they're comfortable with your personality. So it's like a win-win. And I
Yeah.
had to learn that. And then I realized, yeah, if you tell people enough times that you don't have value, then they'll eventually start to believe you because it's easier to just believe you, than it is to. And I think so. What I like to do is just nuance the message of a brand, and it could be a consumer brand or a personal brand. They're usually just brands that are close to the people who are behind them. So if it's your name, yeah, if it's Libra, your Libra partners, your company, it's all the same thing. It's personal to you. It matters to
Yes.
you and it matters to them. That's what personal means. And so what I say is weave in the information they need to know that is bolstering your reputation, your stature, and so forth. But go easy in the other department.
Yeah.
Like you're not on a billboard. You're not, and most people aren't. I think most personal brands, most people are really just uncertain about how much of themselves they can inject into their business because people are not there for it's not a playground, it's a business place where you're supposed to be solving a problem that they have. And so yeah, you want to focus on the problem, but they want a person to solve it who they trust. So who
Yes.
you are is important.
Yes.
I'm interested to know, well, I'm still interested in the 7-year-old dress salesman thing, the doll salesman, because that is very, 7 is a really funny age because you do stuff, you can get away with stuff. What, so your sister was older or
No,
younger?
no, she was younger. She is 3 years younger than me.
She's 3 years younger than you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So, and how many siblings?
I just she's my only sister.
Oh,
So
okay. All right.
so, but yeah. So 3 years younger, and I mean, listen, I think the thing about being young, right, as a child, is that because you are told to believe, but your parents basically tell you everything, right? And they tell you to be
Yeah.
honest. And you believe everything that they say because they're your parents. Then
Hmm.
you make the incorrect assumption that they will believe everything you say because you believe everything. You know what I mean? You don't
Very
understand,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
And so I believed, and there are multiple instances of this. I damn nearly set fire to our house with another instance with a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and my getting out of it, right, trying to get out of it, I basically, said one ludicrous thing, and I was shocked when my mother figured out, okay, well, that's not true. So I think when you're 7 years old and older, in the case of my second, problem, you just sort of expect people to believe you because you believe them. And so I was, if you think about it as your childhood, you're perpetually surprised, at least I was, for all the
Yes.
shenanigans I pulled. I was perpetually surprised how quickly I got caught.
Yes.
And so yes, I think that's probably why. You just when you're 7 and older, you just expect people to believe what you tell
But
them.
I love that. I really do like that concept that well, we believe what we're told from them. There's absolute trust, unconditional trust. Why wouldn't they believe where does it say that what I say has to be true?
Yes,
They just
exactly.
have to believe it as true. Simon, you're out.
Yes. I've outed myself on
Free.
podcasts. Yes, exactly. I've said,
Yeah.
well, my close friends know these stories, right? In
Yes.
fact, there are too many of them to mention. I mean, I had a checkered past, and not that checkered, right, in terms of,
Yeah.
but I definitely was challenging for my parents for sure. But yeah, it make good stories now. I've survived.
Well, were you just mischievous or were you searching for something? Was
No, I
there
think I
like,
was mischievous. I think I was
okay.
just mischievous. Nothing really too. I mean, there were just loads of stories and of just me. I was just a pain, right? I was just maybe I had too much energy. I have no idea, but I nearly burning the house down was just one example. And well, I say I nearly burnt the house down. I set fire to the carpet in my bedroom, and
Oh,
then
it's nothing.
covered
Child's
it up.
play.
Well, what I did was, I'll tell you the story very quickly. We can cut it out. But what I did was, I was with a friend of mine, and I had this little thing called a Mamod steam engine, which is, just you put this methylated spirits in a thing, and you light it, put it under the boiler, which has water in it, obviously turns to steam. The thing works, right? So, being sensible, we put lots of newspaper down on the ground so that if we spilt anything, it wouldn't stay in the carpet. Smart.
Mm-hmm.
So then, but if you methylated spirits is almost invisible until it's on fire. So
Yeah.
we lit it, and as we were putting the thing in under the boiler, it dripped flame. Flame landed on the newspaper caught fire. So we did the sensible thing, left the room and shut the door. We then heard my mother crossing the hallway downstairs with my friend's mother and realized, oh shit, obviously they're still in the house. Went back in, everything was ablaze. So, as in the newspaper was ablaze, the car was catching. So, we managed to put everything out.
How old were you at this point?
I think I was probably 10 or
Okay.
yeah, it was probably 10, 9 or 10 maybe.
All right.
Honestly, I don't know. My mother might, if she ever hears of this podcast, might say, no, you were 13. I don't think I was. But anyway,
say,
so put everything out.
I don't believe everything you say anymore.
Exactly.
I'm an adult now. I can make my own discernment about what's true and what's false. And first of all, I wasn't 13. And second of all, it was, my friend who burned the carpet, not me.
Damn, that's what I probably did tell her. But anyway, after we put everything down, there was a black mark on the carpet, right? Where it caught fire.
Sure.
So what to do about that? Okay, no problem. I will pull the wardrobe out about 7 or 8 inches off the wall to cover it. No issue.
Oh.
So that's what I did. And then my friend, of course, went home with his mum, so everything was fine. My mum came up. I thought to myself, in the unlikely event that my mother or father spot the fact that the wardrobe is now 6 inches off the wall, it's highly unlikely. What do I say? So I thought, well, I'm just going to tell them I like it like that, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be fine because they're going to believe that. And I can remember being astounded that my mother walked into the room and her head jerked to the left immediately. And she spotted this thing and she said, why is the wardrobe out? Off the wall. And cool as a cucumber in my mind, I like it like that. What did she do? Started shoving the wardrobe back. And I remember thinking, well, how does this work? And that's the example again of, I expected her to just believe what I had to say, which is dumb because she probably didn't believe a lot of what I said back then.
Yeah.
So anyway, enough of that. We should probably, I'm supposed to be here talking about business. And meanwhile, I'm just talking about my checkered past.
We'll switch to business in a minute. But I think it's also interesting that, because I could see myself doing that too, like covering up that burn in the carpet or something and thinking no one will notice. Like my father probably would have noticed, but he probably wouldn't say anything. He would just be like, okay, I don't know, probably burn the carpet. I don't know what he did, but my mother would.
Yeah. I tell you something interesting.
Wash your dresser out. Put your dresser out. Now, my mother didn't really sound like that. I don't know that your mother did either. But
no, she didn't. But doesn't. But no. But I know what you mean.
But it's like, what's that? It's like, well, I'm stashing, dolls behind the dresser, Mom.
Exactly.
I've started a new business.
So, but the interesting thing now is, honesty is a big part of how I behave, right? I guess from my early days, honestly, I've changed, and now I only really want to deal with people that are honest. And to your point about personality into your business, and whether, releasing your personality into the
Right.
wild, as it were, and letting people, your prospects and clients, know really who you are, that is slightly frightening, right? In more ways than one. But I think once you do it, you actually repel the kinds of people that you wouldn't want to work with, and you attract the kinds of people you do want to work with. And I'm old enough and ugly enough to have been around the block long enough to know I don't want to work with people who are dishonest or shady or stiff their clients or partners or whatever. And there, by the way, there are plenty of those people out there. I just want to work with people who appreciate hard work and want to get the job done, and who are prepared to listen and take the advice that I give them, as well as anyone else's advice, and have empathy and openness. Those are the kinds of people I want to work with. I don't want to work with people who are just focused on
Assholes.
screwing everyone over to get ahead.
Well, yeah, but you make a really important point, Simon, which is that part of working with the people you want to work with is attracting them, but another part is repelling the people that you
Yes.
don't want to work with.
Yes.
And if you're everything to everybody, you're going to attract assholes too, because
Yes.
why not? But if you're willing to go out on that limb, and I know it's scary because I've heard many people say to me, oh, if I do that, I'm going to eliminate half the population as my prospective clients. I go, yeah, but you know what? Probably you'll eliminate the half that you don't want to work with.
Exactly.
So, you can't work with everybody.
No.
If you're in the kinds of businesses that we're in, and as service providers, as consultants or coaches, you don't. But you do have to identify those personality types, that audience, the people that you do want to work with, and focus on them, because that positivity of these are the people I want to help, is much more useful than saying I'm gonna piss off other people. But yeah, there's gonna be people there. Look, it happens every day. I meet a lot of people now, thankfully, in the course of not only the shows, but my travels and my work. And I find that there are some people that I don't want to work with, but who I like. I don't have anything against them. I just feel that their work style, their business style, and I'm not even talking about ethics, their business style is just not my style.
Yeah.
So I can be friends with them, but they wouldn't hire me, and I probably wouldn't hire them.
That's interesting. I mean, I think I probably wouldn't. Working with friends is tricky if they're already friends, right? I mean, I work with my
Yeah.
wife, right? And I'm lucky that we have a very strong relationship, and the living and working together in the same space seems to strengthen our friendship and love of each other rather than the other way around, right? I mean,
Yeah.
most couples I know, their marriage works in part because they work separately and they're not in each
Yeah.
other's faces the whole time. And COVID really made that difficult.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem, which is very fortunate. But I've developed friendships in every business I've been in, but they came from the business first, if you understand me.
Yes.
Some of my closest and dearest friends are people I met in business and now have become very close and dear friends. And I would work with them again in a heartbeat, and have done actually, because I worked with them in the past, but they were not friends beforehand. They became friends out of a sort of mutual respect and love for each other that happened during our working together. So yeah, I think that's probably right.
That's mostly the case for me. I have lifelong friends that I feel very close to, but I don't spend a lot of time with them, where the relationship is built on, could be childhood and could be young adulthood or teenagers or all of that. And there are some very, very close friendships there. But as an adult, I would say a majority of the close friendships are like you say, they come through work, and they're going, but, and there are far more of those I've found, people that I am a good fit with, let's say, as a collaborator, as a colleague, as a client, or as a provider, than there are that are not. It's just, and it may be an equal amount. It doesn't matter, because those numbers don't matter. What matters is that you're doing the work that you feel fulfilled doing, and that you're doing it for and with people who make you feel good. And if anything, and I suspect that most of these people have very high regard for you, and they put up with it. They either share, if they're British, they might share your humility commitment, your humility oath that you have to take, or they kind of, it's neither here nor there. But I do think, on a serious note, that I have found that it's really important to get a grip on our own value. Like I'm doing, this will already have happened when this airs, but I'm doing on the 31st of July this Earning Your Wealth Respect event, a live LinkedIn event, Earning Your Wealth Respect with Humor and Humanity. And the idea really is that so many of us undervalue ourselves and our offerings and what we're doing. And it could be for any number of reasons. But I think it's up to us to really settle into our value and feel so good about it that we can then decide how to calibrate the message. That's the main point of that event, is that the message, if there's anything that comes before the message, it's that working on yourself to feel your value and your power and, what you're bringing. And quite often we know that we're bringing it. We just are kind of conditioned to not really express it. But
I think that's interesting. If I think about my own journey, I think that some of that just takes time and maturity. I mean, listen, I accelerated very quickly in my career. I joined this business in 91 as a salesman, and in 90
there he goes boasting again.
Yes, forgive me, but I joined it as a salesman in 91. I became UK sales manager, I think in 92 or 3, and I was asked to join the board in 94 or 5, I think. I can't remember, it's so bloody long ago. But so I knew I was adding value at that business, right? And then I moved on. Obviously we sold to S&P, then I got involved in very small businesses and so on. The difference for me was once I came out of those companies and now I started to work for myself, right? And there is a difference between when you're working for a company and you're delivering value, it's quite obvious, right? But, well, at least for me anyway, what happened for me was my wife and I set up an agency to bring in a South African company to North America, or to the US, North America really, because we had clients and we built clients in Canada. And that's something I've done multiple times, right? Brought businesses from overseas to the United States. Anyway, so once we started doing that, of course, we had no income and we were building a business from scratch. And so a guy I had known for a few years who ran a very successful business asked me, would I come and help him grow his company and talk to him about his sales organization. So he had 4 salespeople, including himself. Anyway, I said, sure. I mean, that's what I did for companies, but I worked in those companies. So this was my first experience from the outside of going in as an outsider, as a consultant. And I always have hated the word consultant, but here I am. I am in the consulting business, and then advising him and helping him grow. And I worked with them for, okay, this is going to be very immodest, right? But I worked with them for just over a year and 5 days a month, I think. And their revenue at the end of that year was up over 60%, right?
Wow, yeah.
And I didn't think, in all honesty, I'd done anything special at all, right? And that's when I realized suddenly that I have value. And I know this sounds spectacularly stupid, but that is when I realized that I had value, because what was really ludicrously simple to me that I put in place made enormous difference to this guy's business, who I respected, who'd grown a much bigger business than my current business, right? Over 20 years, was very respected in his industry. And yet a few simple things in my mind made a huge difference to his company. And that's when I realized, the expertise that I have in this little space around sales and sales management and sales execution and sales strategy is valuable. And even successful business owners don't have it necessarily, even though they've grown their business. They don't necessarily have it, and they can use it, and I can make a real difference. And that, again, spectacularly stupidly, I accept, was a revelation for me. And that is what made me think, once, we finished with this South African business, I should do this for other companies
Mm-hmm.
because I can make a real difference in their business. And it's quote unquote easy for me because I've done it so many times and I really enjoy it. It is
Yeah.
something massively, it's just so rewarding to go in
Well,
and help a company with something
yeah.
that you can do and do it with multiple companies at the same time, see the result. It's hugely rewarding. And I don't mean that in a braggadocious way. I just mean I find it personally very fulfilling.
Yeah. And it's rewarding for them. And the fact is that with our expertise, our age, our experience, comes a sense sometimes, it's not quite imposter syndrome, but it's that when things come too easily, we don't trust them. And we're like that perhaps with other people, or we're like that with ourselves, you know? And it's like, when can it really be done that simply? And can a few key changes really make a difference? And the reason I like that way of looking at things is because we're really not looking at ourselves in that case. I'm so great. I blah, blah, blah. We're looking at who we want to help and how and what that's worth to them. In other words, what is the, we're going to talk about this in that wealth respect conversation as well, which is what is the value that I bring and what is their valuation of it? I
Yeah.
can't set my price or anything until they evaluate it. And if they do, and it turns out that it's not that much because there's not that much demand for it, or a lot of people can do it or whatever, it doesn't matter how great I think it is. So it's really not about us at all. I keep trying to drive that home to entrepreneurs that don't be afraid that it's about yourself. You're right to think it's about them, the people you serve, what they want, the mission you're on, how you're going to help them, and what it's worth to them.
Yeah.
That's all valid. But you can't get to a balanced and accurate place without also appreciating your value. Because if you have a negative valuation of yourself and they have an accurate one,
Yes.
then you're still going to end up charging less because
Yeah.
you can't justify it to yourself. Same thing. You'll use that excuse. Oh, it comes too easily. It took me a couple hours to, I learned a long time ago not to charge by the hour
Oh, no,
because
no.
I was fast. Because if I solved who knows if I spent 2 days walking around with an idea that I had to figure out, and then I
Yeah.
sat down and turned the clock on and I go, oh, okay, I spent 14 minutes, you know?
No, no, that's a really important thing
Yeah.
for certainly people in our space to understand. Because the other thing is, if you start, I mean, your value when you've had a lot of experience is based on all of that experience, right? So I can see a problem or see a solution to a problem in a minute because I've seen that problem before,
Yeah.
right? And we have been involved in solving that problem before. So it's not that I'm, just incredible that I can solve every problem in 1 minute. I can't. But if I've seen the problem before and I know what the solution is, it doesn't take me long. But that decision can be very, very, very valuable for the business. And the other problem is if you sell by the hour, then people they evaluate you by the hour. Okay, so I
Right.
spent an hour. What did I get out of Hersh in this hour? Is that worth whatever, 300, 500, whatever it
Yeah.
is, an hour? Did I get value out of that 1 hour? That's insane,
Right.
right? Now I get
Right.
it, I get the why lawyers do it and so on. But for people like us, that's just nuts because not every single hour of your time is
Yeah.
going to be equal, right? And I think the other thing that is really valuable is the thinking time. Okay, so
Yeah.
people don't understand the thinking time. No one wants to pay for you to think, or so they think, right? But the truth is, they do. You have to think. You
Of course
can't
they do.
provide
Yeah.
solutions in these very, short timeframes, unless, of course, you know what the solution is. And I think that's the thing. the way I operate is I always go and spend a couple of days with, when I sign a new client, I always spend a couple of days with them in person, whiteboarding, asking lots of challenging questions, writing stuff down. Why do you do it this way? Have you thought about doing it that way? What is your process? Da, da, da. Just trying to absorb as much information. But then I take that away, and guess what? I do a lot of thinking, right?
Yeah.
And so, because you can't do it without that. And if I was charging by the hour and sort of putting, 8 hours of walking the dog and thinking, dogs and thinking, or,
Hmm.
talking to my wife and business partner about it and thinking, people are like, what the hell am I spending money on? But of course, that's incredibly valuable and essential.
Yeah.
Essential.
Yeah. And
Um,
if you try to quantify those hours spent thinking and talking and walking, it just doesn't equate. And I think that's another thing that what I like about your approach is that when we hear the word growth quite often, we just think about revenue. We
yes.
just think about exponential revenue and that it requires some system or some kind of organizational approach to make it function. Whereas you're really accelerating their maturity, their evolution, their strategy, the teamwork, the things that are going to make it not just bigger, but better and grow in the real sense, in the
Yeah.
sense of not just scaling, you know.
I think there's so much I could talk about in that regard, Hirsch. I mean, I have a process that I developed over the years, which I call the 4 Ps, or 4 pillars of growth. And those 4 pillars are people, product, process, and price, right? So pretty much everything can fall under one of those 4 Ps, right? So if you have the wrong people, either in the wrong seats, you've got the wrong, roles filled, or people are not very good, you're going to find it hard to grow your revenue and sell. If the product is wrong, or you don't have product market fit, okay, then you're going to have, or you have the wrong product for this market, or the product is great for the UK market but doesn't work in the US market, or vice versa, whatever. Product issues are going to slow you down or stop you from growing.
Mm-hmm.
Process, right? You need to have a process if you're going to scale a sales organization. You need to have a sales process, a buyer's journey, right? That you can map. And I am not talking here about scripts. I'm talking about understanding what it takes to get from attracting someone who might be interested in whatever your product or services is, all the way through to contracting them and then beyond, right? How do you get them to renew and be referral partners, all that kind of stuff. And of course, the final one, price. If you get the price
Mm-hmm.
wrong, it's going to be difficult to sell. But to your point of scalability, this is a mistake that I see everywhere, where people say, oh, when it comes to sales teams or growth, in order to scale or grow, what we've got to do is hire a bunch more salespeople or marketing people. But usually it's salespeople. And that is not the answer. And I always say to people, don't hire a single new salesperson until A, your existing people are maxed out and super efficient, and B, you've got all those 4 Ps sorted out. Otherwise, you're just wasting money. And you
Mm-hmm.
see this all the time, right? You see businesses that get big injections of capital from venture capital or private equity on the basis of the fact that they've sold this sort of hockey stick of revenue. I will generate this amount
Yeah,
in
yeah.
5 years if you give me this amount of cash, right? And then, so then the first thing they do is they go out rushing out and they build a massive sales team. And then within a year, 2 years, or whatever, they're firing people left, right, and center, and the organization is cratering. And they've spent, 10, 20, 50, $100 million trying to scale something, but they've scaled it on the back of zero foundation.
Yeah.
And so most businesses, by the way, don't scale like that, period. That's the other myth. We've got into this ludicrous scenario of, oh, everyone's trying to build a unicorn. It's just nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most businesses don't grow that fast. You want steady, profitable growth is what you really want. And there are lots of ingredients to make that happen. And they don't involve blindly going out and buying a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Well said. Are there some businesses that really are only destined or intended to get to a certain size? Like when you're working with people and they maybe suggest their plan, well, I want to grow to the X, I want to be this, I want to be that.
I mean, I think most businesses can grow, but in order to grow, sometimes they might need to change their product strategy or they might need to move into new markets. I mean, it's difficult to grow if you have a product in a highly saturated market. Your market is very mature or your product is very mature, right? And you've
Right.
you've already got the majority of the clients you're ever going to get, then that makes life very difficult. So you have to figure out how else do you grow? Do you move into a new market, another country? Do you start a new product line? All that kind of stuff, right? That requires a lot of strategic thought about how you are going to grow. So I suspect most businesses can grow, but maybe not in the way that they've grown to here.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I think is valuable that people don't get. It takes a certain set of skills to take a business from 0 to 1 million in revenue. It takes another set of skills to take that business from 1 to 5 and so on and so forth, right? That changes over time. And if as a business owner or director of that company, you don't recognize that, you're going to struggle to grow because the skill set of the people that are running the company needs to change over time.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
lived that.
Well, you see, here's all this very good insight, Simon, and very real world kind of business sense when it comes to growth. I'm curious. I don't think we ever talked about when you may have, maybe when we first met, what Libra Partners, the name Libra Partners came from.
My wife and I are both Libras.
Yeah, that's what I
It,
suspected.
it's all a bit feeble, really. We had a business in the UK called Libra Partners, and we sort of stuck with it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, brilliantly, there was zero thought that went into it. None. Okay. And I often look, other than that, right? And I often look at these businesses and I think, God, bloody hell, we should have thought of a sensible, really sort of good name for the company. But hey, we haven't. And that's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
So,
meaningful to me, even if it makes no bloody sense to anybody else.
well, it doesn't look, it doesn't, it works. Things that
Yes.
work, that's another one of those things like the fact that it was a very no brainer, let's say, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But let's put it this way, the time you spent nurturing the relationship and building the relationship is those were not billable hours. That's the difference between an hourly and actual partnership at work. Do tell the audience where they can reach you. It may be librapartners.com, I don't know. But if
It's
it,
actually it's actually librapartnersolutions.com, which is
oh,
awkward
okay.
because there was when you go to librapartners.com, you get to sort of Belgian real estate company,
Oh, of course you
which
do.
is
Because
really
there's two Belgians who are married and they're both Libras, but they sell real estate.
exactly. I mean, it's yes. So it's Libra Partner Solutions, which again, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, that just came about because we were sorting this business out, the South African business, and we just needed something quickly. We didn't really put much thought into it. And so we
Yeah.
just put that in. So zebrapartnersolutions.com with two S's, partners solutions. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to go to and then figure it out from there. The website that we have right now is in the process of being redesigned, thank God, because it's not very good. And I don't mean that in a self-depreciating way. It genuinely isn't very good. So find me on LinkedIn. I do post quite regularly on LinkedIn about business and occasional things on sailing, which is my big passion in life. So yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
where to find me.
Yeah. And I was going to throw a couple of things out that we hadn't touched on. One is that despite the jokes that we made about your accent, you live in the United States. You've been living in the United States for a long time, right?
Yes, I
Uh,
first moved here in 96,
yeah.
moved out in 2002, came back in 2008.
Yeah.
So I've been here, for quite a while. This is now my home. I love it. I live just outside Boston, west of Boston, about 10 miles, and I love it, right?
Oh, that's what it is. It's the Boston accent. That's what you have. You have a Boston
Right,
accent. I just
right,
can't quite, yeah, I can't quite
exactly. I have a
grasp it.
very soft
Yeah,
Boston
it's a
accent.
soft Boston. I've spent time in Boston. I don't know that there's a soft Boston.
No, it's a great city, though. It's a
It
great city.
is.
I love it. And for me, it's on the ocean, right? So that's the bit that's important to me because I can get out sailing as much as possible.
Love it. Well, thank you, Simon Stillwell, for coming on the show, for being open to play and having fun and going deep and going all over the place and having a really enjoyable conversation, at least from my part. So
No, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, Hersh. Thank you so much. I now understand why we connected instantaneously, right? It's because you have empathy and a high EQ, which I do too, and you appreciate humility or modesty or whatever, and you have it in spades, which obviously is something that I respect and value. So that now, is you basically verbalized why. So that's why. So thank you so much. Listen, I hope if of nothing else, hopefully it's a bit of amusement, but with a bit of luck, it'll actually prove to people that, it'll prove valuable to people, and maybe someone will want to have a conversation because of it. If not, I hope it's fun. I've enjoyed it.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and
it worked for you,
yes, then
subscribe and leave a
yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yes.